Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a quick process video for you today. I'm going to be assembling my Build-A-Book from Bythewell4God. This is the one I completed last year when they first released these kits. This is when we were doing Note to Self. You can see mine looks a little bit different than maybe the tutorial. I do tend to do mine just slightly differently. But they come with instructions and a QR code that you can scan to get to Lori's tutorial for how to assemble these books. And then it comes with everything that you need. So you have your needle and thread and a thing to make a tassel, your spine pieces, both the Tyvek and the cover piece, and then your signatures, which are already pre-folded and cut and everything for you, and then the 3 pieces to assemble the spine. So I'm going to start with the spine piece and the Tyvek, and I am going to cover this in double-sided adhesive. This is just my preferred way to do this. Just any good strong adhesive would work. I'm just kind of cutting it down to size, and then I'm going to burnish that down really well, and then I'm just using a little tool here to help pull up the release paper, and I'm kind of just pulling it back a little bit to create these little flags that I can hold on to. So I'm making sure that I get this as centered as I possibly can. So it isn't perfect, but it will be just fine. So I'm just going to get that into place, and then once I have it, I can kind of press down on the top part and then take the rest of the release paper off. I'm going to burnish that down really well, and then I will have everything I need there to add the other pieces. So off camera, I covered these with the fabric. They had released some fabric this month that matched the kit with these little cute coffee cups and everything, and I used heat and bond I just ironed that on the back of the fabric and then just wrapped those cover pieces. There was no way for me to really film that, so I just did that off camera. But I do have another video, I think, where I have done that, and I will try to remember to link that. But it's just basically iron-on adhesive. So what I'm doing right here is on these sections of Tyvek, I'm adding some more of this double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version. Score Tape is another brand, and pulled back the release, and I'm going to now adhere the spine section, or the cover section. But you can see I'm leaving a space between the cover and the spine. You want to have at least the width of your chipboard in there. Otherwise it's not going to close properly. So if you put it right next to each other, you won't be able to actually close the book. So I'm just making sure everything is pressed down really well, and then I'm going to add some more score tape on this remaining Tyvek that's showing, and I'm going to fold it and wrap it around. So I'm actually adding it to the chipboard and to the Tyvek itself. That way I can make sure that the entire section gets covered. I want it to stay wrapped really well. So this is just an easy way to do that. And then I'm going to pull the release papers, and then I'm just going to kind of roll it around. So I'm going to kind of set it up on its end here to make sure that that part is going to stay, because I want it to be a nice and tight, I want it just to adhere really well there. Sorry. And then I just did the same thing to the top section. And now I want to add this other piece. You can kind of see on the back of this fabric, it's a little bit shiny. That is that heat and bond that's already been ironed on the one side, and then I'm just going to get this cut down to the size that I need, and it was just a little bit longer than what I needed here, so I'm going to actually use my little rotary trimmer and trim this down, and then I'm going to go back to my iron and iron this onto my my cover here, doing the same thing. I'm just going to cover the outer spine, and then I'll wrap it around toward, into the middle, and all of that, those raw edges will get covered up. So you can see I've done that. Here's how it looks on the inside. I'm just making sure everything is good. I'm kind of pressing down into the those little spaces just to make sure that everything's going to fold really well. Now I have the little spine piece. This is the cover section to kind of cover up all of those raw edges. I'm going to use my score tape again here, and then I'm doing that in both the middle sections and on both of the flap parts, but I'm only going to take the release paper off the middle section first. You can kind of see I've already kind of folded that, and then I'm going to take these off. That way I can get this where I want without having to worry about it getting stuck, the little flap pieces. And I'm using one of the inside covers just to kind of make sure, this is how I want this lined up. and then I'm going to adhere this down, and then I will go back through and take the release paper off of the flaps and put those down as well. So it's this this kit that has these spine pieces. They've already been scored for you, so literally everything has been done in terms of all of that. So now I'm just going to add some double-sided adhesive here all over the backside of both of these cover pieces. You could use, certainly if you wanted to do the like pattern paper or whatever that coordinated with this kit. I just decided to use the pieces that were included in the Build-A-Book set just because it made it nice and easy, because everything was already cut and measured for me. So I am going to do that same thing with the release paper. I'm just lining this up nice and straight with that middle spine piece, and then pulling off the release paper, and then I'm just going to burnish it really well just to make sure. So Bythewell sends these out, and they have two signatures, and they each have like 4 pages in them. I personally just wanted to do 3 signatures. I just it works better for me because I know these are going to get pretty chunky. So I just pulled a couple pages out of each of those signatures and made a 3rd signature out of that. And then, but which means that I'm going to have to I won't be able to use the template in the same way, which is fine. I'm going to kind of use it, but you can see here, I'm just kind of showing you how it fits in here. All of these lines and arrows are, you know, where you would punch your holes if you were to use Lori's method. So again, I would encourage you to watch that video if you want to try to do it that way. This is just my preferred way of doing it. So I'm taking this template and I'm folding it in half so I know where the center is, and I'm going to actually make some new marks on this template. I'm using it because it's the exact right size. Otherwise, you could just make your own template if that makes it easier. But so I'm going to create my first line down the center. I'm just going to use this little ruler and pencil, and then I'm not actually measuring this, you know, but I am kind of just eyeballing where I want this other signature to go. I'm just making the lines now for the signatures is what I'm doing. So I have these 3 lines, and where those lines intersect is where I'm going to actually punch my holes. So I'm trying to find the center because I'm going to be using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. This template's not designed for that purpose. So I'm just, again, going to kind of eyeball this for the middle, measuring it as close as I can. And then I'm going to go through and make that first line, and then I'll come in, I think, roughly an inch or so from the top and bottom. And then you can see everywhere that these areas intersect, I'm kind of circling them. That's where I am going to punch my holes. So I'm going to line this up here, and I am making sure that this is going to line up with my my signatures. I'm marking that this is the top of this template so that it doesn't get confused. And then I'm going to punch my holes. I'm using a heavy duty awl. This book board is thick book board. It's not like a regular chipboard, or if you see me do other videos like with a cereal box or whatever, this is not that. This is really heavy duty, good book board. So it requires probably a heavy duty awl. I know in her tutorial, Lori uses a hammer and a nail, which would work too. I'm just using an awl, and I'm working on a self-healing mat, this black mat that I have under here. So don't have to worry about ruining my desk. Otherwise, you want to make sure you have something put there. You can use an old book or something like that to punch down into if you don't have anything, but that's just how I'm doing it. Now I'm marking my signatures 1, 2, and 3 so that I get them in the right place. And then I have a book cradle. Again, you could use like, you know, an old telephone book or an old book to do the same kind of thing. But I'm taking my little template and I'm folding it now on each one of the lines that I drew. That way I can stick that down inside the middle of the signature, and it will line up so that I can kind of see where I need to punch my holes. I'm sorry I'm so low on the screen there, but you can see. So on this one, I'm punching them, you know, for where the 3rd signature would be, and then I'm going to do that for the middle one. I'll fold it again to, you know, the middle section here, and then I'll do it for the first section as well. I hope that makes sense. And then I'm going to now cut my thread, and it came with a needle that you will need for sewing. And there's plenty of thread in here because I like I said, I'm doing mine a little bit different, and there's plenty of thread, so you don't have to worry about that. But for a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, you need about 2.5 to 3 times the length of the spine. And so I just cut 3 lengths of that, and I'm going to start with the signature that's in the like 3rd position, the very last signature. It's just a little bit easier to work with when you're doing multiple signatures. So I'm going from the middle hole to the outside, and then I'm going to come to the top hole and come back in to the middle of the spine here, the kind of gutter of the signature. And then I'm going to go down all the way to that bottom hole and go back out to the outside. And then I will come back in through that hole in the center. And then just make sure that anytime you're doing this, you don't want to split your threads with your needle. So just take your time and make sure that that thread is not catching on that thread that's already there. And then you want to make sure that when you tie this off, that you have each of the tails on opposite sides of that long piece there, and it will just kind of tie a knot around there. And then I just pull my needle off, and that first signature is sewn in, and I will do the same thing with the other 2 signatures. And I didn't want to make you watch all of that, but now I want to add some photo corners. These are some Tim Holtz ones, but the only ones I had left are from the package are silver, and obviously I wanted them to be more of a brown color, so I'm changing that using some alcohol ink. I cannot remember the names of the colors that I used. I want to say this was like espresso or something like that. But I basically just, dabbed it on and kind of rubbed it around with my gloved hand there. I usually make a mess with alcohol ink, so I try to use gloves whenever I can. And then just making sure that they have a nice coating on them, that they're the color that I want. And then just adding a little color here and there where it needed it. I'm trying to make sure that I was getting down in the grooves, because these are kind of like an embossed design on there. And then once that is dry, it doesn't take, just a second because it's alcohol ink. I can actually add them to my corners of my book here. I'm using Helmar 450 quick dry glue. This is a strong adhesive. You probably don't even really need to add adhesive for these, but it just makes me feel better. So I just add a little bit in there, and then you come around with some pliers and kind of just wrap those edges around. And then you just have this really nice book corner here. I'm just kind of squeezing on the inside as well. And then I will do the same thing for all 4 corners. And that is pretty much how it ends up. I did get a little bit of glue that leaked out. I had a little bit too much in there, but now this is my completed book. There was a couple things I did off camera. I created this little tassel from the pieces that were in the kit. I also added this fabric trim. I really wanted to kind of make that side on the left seem a little bit smaller proportionally. So I just added some lace to kind of help in that 3rd section. And then those are my 3 signatures that I'll be using, and my little photo corners on there, or book corners on there. And then I may add some other charms and things too with this little coffee cup. I haven't quite decided yet, but for now that's how it is. I may also add a closure later on, but I haven't quite decided. So if you liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.